Oh, Varsity Blues. I gotta redo my whole top 10. That is, never mind. I'm not gonna embarrass myself. It's in the top 100. It's in my top 100. Favorites? Personal favorites?
No, it's not in my top 100, but I can see it being in someone as low class as you.
Yeah, I'm pretty douchey.
What do you want to do? How do you want to start it?
We'll talk it out. This is our first episode of What I Miss. Everyone, welcome to What I Miss with Ev Durán and Chief Keef.
I'm Chief Keef. What's the theme of the type of movies we're discussing here?
I think this first round is each of our top 10 favorite films of all time.
Top 10 favorite films. I love it because I'm very selfish and I love the movies that I love. And I can't wait to talk about.
And you're on a short list for most of those, as I have seen his top 10 list. It's going to be fun, you guys. It's really hilarious. If for no other reason, stick around to just really catch a glimpse of this guy's top 10 favorite movies.
Everett, if you're looking for high art, then look no further than my top 10 list of favorite films. It really speaks volumes of really the nuance of cinema is what the type of films that I love. So you're all in for a treat. You're welcome.
You ever been in a cockpit before?
No, sir, I've never been up in a plane before.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
I believe my girlfriend's exact words were, "Is he 14 years old?"
That's that's spot on.
That was just when I showed her a picture of your penis. She hadn't even seen your top 10 list. Anyways, so what we're going to do here, folks, is we're going to insult penises a lot, but what we're really going to focus on is we're going to alternate back and forth with our top 10. So today we're going to do Keith's number 10 favorite, then we'll do mine, and then we'll do his 9, and then we'll do my 9, and so on. And then we'll move on to other lists of random origins later on in future episodes. But this is a very special and unique episode because you and I sent each other our top 10 lists without collaborating beforehand, and we had the same movie at number 10. The only overlap film, and it's in the exact same position, which I think is really funny and very surprising. Keith, tell us about the movie we're talking about.
Coming in at number 10 for mine and Everett's favorite film is a film called Up in the Air. I believe released in 2009, starring George Clooney and a lovely Anna Kendrick. And I can't even pronounce the female lead in that, George Clooney's love interest. I cannot pronounce her name, so I will leave it up to you to pronounce her name.
Vera Farmiga?
I will take your word for it.
Very talented. I did a deep dive on Vera's IMDb just earlier today and spent most of it wondering what went wrong. She pops up in like a really excellent movie every 4 or 5 years or so, and then there's just a lot of weird stuff in between. So we'll talk about Vera.
I am the woman that you don't have to worry about.
Sounds like a trap.
Honestly, the thing that sticks out to me the most when I watch this film is the writing. I think the writing is fantastic. Jason Reitman directed and wrote the film, and the thing that blows me away is it's almost 2 hours long, but with how it is written, it feels so concise. I don't think anything is wasted in terms of a line that doesn't mean something, that doesn't have multiple levels of impact to the story. For example, I think my favorite line of the film is when Anna Kendrick is on the flight for their first trip out to wherever they're going to embark on their journey together, and George Clooney says, like, "Are you angry at your computer?" or something like that. And she turns to him and she says,
I type with purpose.
I think one of the best lines of the whole film is arguably one of my favorite lines of the film, because in such a short phrase, you learn everything about Anna Kendrick's character. in just that reaction and that response. Her performance, I think, obviously helps with that, but just the line itself, I type with purpose. It says everything you need to know about this character. As a terrible writer myself, I overstate the obvious. I find myself hammering home points. I find myself being way too on the nose too often. And I think it's so much harder than it looks when you're able to be that clear and concise and efficient with your words and still get the reaction and the understanding from the audience in that way. Hopefully you agree. Tell me why I'm right.
Yeah. Well, no, I obviously can't disagree. As we were joking about before we started recording, this is going to be an unusual episode because we agree on this film when the rest of our top 10s could not take more different turns. So lots of patting each other on the back in this episode, which probably won't be
Then the white
commonplace.
gloves come off.
Yeah, well, we're starting off friendly. It's nice. So, Keith, you're a genius. Yeah, it's great writing. Yeah, I would say that one thing I noticed on a rewatch today, which is probably the 25th time I've watched this movie, I don't know, 20th time, I really have, I had an immediate love for this film the first time I saw it. It really affected me, and I think I rewatched it like right away, like almost back to back, like, God, that's a really good movie. And so one thing I noticed in the rewatch today was that I was really appreciative for what the film didn't do, like what it left out, and it's sort of what you're talking about with the writing, is that there's not any like exposition, but that doesn't come at the cost of character development. Like you feel connected to these characters. All the characters feel very real.
Yeah.
Like they're their interactions are just so perfect, and the things they say are smart and clever and entertaining, but very real, and they don't sound overly written. It's just really. I appreciated all the stuff about how you get 20 minutes, half hour into the movie, and you don't know that much about George Clooney's character, but you know enough that you like him, and you want to see where this story's going. But they don't bog you down with like random filler. I thought one scene in particular was when his neighbor woman, he goes home.
Hey, neighbor.
And his neighbor visits from across the hall to say, hey, got some mail or signed a package or whatever. And it just kind of alludes to the fact that they clearly used to have, or they have had an ongoing off and on relationship with each other, very casual, but they don't need to bog it down. I think a lesser filmmaker would have felt the need to like have more of a conversation or really establish early on Ryan Bingham's, George Clooney's relationship with his family, or you don't need that stuff. You just learn all the stuff you need to learn just by looking and listening, and it's really refreshing.
Hey, it's good to see you.
You too.
Seems like it's been a while this time.
I just feel like it's a very confident film. And I don't know exactly what that even means, but I know it when I see it. You know, like it's not, like you said, there's not a lot of wasted time. There's not a lot of, everything seems very decisive.
Yeah, very deliberate.
And there's enough style to it that that you get these little visual treats. One of my favorite shots is just this random little shot at the very end of the film, where Bingham is with George Clooney is talking to Jason Bateman, and Jason Bateman says,
I know what you're going to say.
Quit.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Anna Kendrick's character quit.
Natalie, all right? Natalie quit.
And it just shows that shot of her silence going away on the little escalator, the moving walkway in the airport. And that's it. And then it cuts back to their conversation.
Yep.
Like that, those little touches are like just beautiful and really like, it's really emotional.
Yeah.
Like it was really, I love all of it.
That line is so thin of making that work, in my opinion. It gives the perfect amount of context to an emotion. And this film taps into emotion wire to wire through every facet of a touch point, whether writing, editing, cinematography, whatever, so well. And it's that shot in particular, I think for other filmmakers or if someone else did this film, might not work. Because it'd just be like, why is that shot there? Why is that random one-off shot just kind of, but that fine line is met perfectly here.
I'm just saying there are options. Oh, fuck.
let's talk about the acting, because that's one of my favorite things. That's what I wrote down, was the cast. And I had a really hard time, because at first I was like, I'm just going to say Anna Kendrick, because she's so great. She's one of my favorite things. And I was like, but you know what? Like, Vera is phenomenal. Like, she's so good in this movie, so I'm going to say Anna and Vera. And then I was going to say, I also want to say the supporting cast, because almost every key supporting role is done by a very talented, like, famous face. So I was just like, screw it, I got to say the cast. But I do think the entire cast is phenomenal. I think George Clooney is great, but it's just such a George Clooney role that, like, I'm less impressed by him, even though he's very good. It's probably my favorite performance and role of his, but it's just so straight down the middle of his comfort zone. It's like, George, go be charming, go be handsome, be yourself. Have that little twinkle in your eye every time you say something, and he does. He nails it. But the two lead women, Vera Farmiga and Anna Kendrick, I think are phenomenal.
In the notes that I took while I was watching the film, I wrote the same thing down. It's just crazy that I've never agreed with you as much as I'm doing right now, and it makes my fucking skin crawl. It's funny that you say, like, George, you're right in your analysis about George Clooney's performance, but I think, like, this is the best version of him. Like, this is the best Clooney, which, what you were alluding to before about how sort of natural everything feels. It's just a credit to their performance. I mean, I think the writing and the directing all lends itself, like, sets the table perfectly for this. And they just deliver on it. So I mean, I can't say anything that you haven't said already.
Do you know what I think was really interesting? Was Anna Kendrick's hairline.
What? I don't think I noticed her hairline that much.
Oh, you notice it. You notice it. I mean, she's a beautiful girl. I love Anna Kendrick. One of my celebrity crushes.
Yeah. Is she in your top 5 or?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
She's on the list.
I'll just love her.
Like, do you know that you're on lists, or how does that work?
People have made me aware that I'm on lists.
But they don't consult you at all.
I don't have to sleep with him, Trevor.
No,
I think in this movie in particular, because she so typically has her hair pulled back in a very tight, like, ponytail. Mm-hmm. She just has a very interesting hairline that I thought was almost like a character trait for this movie, but then I, like, looked up a lot of photos of her, and that's just sort of her natural hairline. Yeah, like, she doesn't have a very big forehead. Like, it's the opposite of those people that have, like, the 5 head. She has, like, the no head. She has the 3 head. It's just the hair comes all the way to the eyebrows.
Yeah, I think this is why people are listening for this type of analysis.
Yeah, this is the stuff you're not hearing anywhere else. I was like, it was like
Kendrick's hairline is why people are listening. I gotta get Ev's take on Anna Kendrick's hairline. What I would say about the cast that I think is underrated and I thought very interesting. You know, the inserts from the people throughout the film that are talking to their bosses or George Clooney as they're getting fired. All those little inserts that they do. Yeah. Those people are not actors. Those people. Did you know that?
Yeah, I read the same Wikipedia page. No, we can still talk about it.
So I guess you could just Google it yourself too, and we don't have to talk. Let's just sit in silence. Let's just sit in silence. And
shut this off. Just Google the movie.
Just Google it while we'll just sit here quietly.
Let's get back to Anna Kendrick's hairline. No, I think that is fascinating.
I just thought that was super interesting that they had real people come in and talk as if they were talking to their bosses, who were people who were recently fired. For those who haven't Googled yet, those little inserts are people who were recently fired in real life. They're not actors. They brought them in and they just had them, spill their heart, spill their guts, say things that they wish they would have said to their bosses at the time. And I just think that's awesome.
One of the things I love most about this movie, I wrote down a couple lines, I think the way you did, is I love that it starts sort of with that scene with him and Galifianakis. And just even in that scene, I feel like I learn enough about George Clooney's character to like him. And it's even though he's being kind of slimy. Like he's in he's the villain in that scene, but he's doing it with this attitude. But my favorite part is when Galifianakis turns around and says, "How will I get in contact with you?" And he says, "We'll be in touch with you soon." And then the voiceover says,
I'll never see Steve again.
I'll never see Steve again. And I just like, I love that it's like right there, I'm in. Like I remember thinking that the first time I watched the movie, it's like, okay, I'm in. Like this guy is just, it's just perfect. It's just a great intro to a film.
Yeah.
Oh, the one other thing I'm sure you read in the same blurb as we're all reading Wikipedia together now. The most interesting factoid I thought, which actually made me a little sad because I love this movie, but I think I would love it more if it was Steve Martin in that role.
I'm told that one day I'll look back on all this with great affection and nostalgia. I hope so.
From what I read, it was George Clooney had the part, and if he declined, then they were going to go approach Steve Martin and then rewrite it and tailor it more to him and have it take on a different life of its own. I wouldn't sacrifice that movie for this movie, but it's definitely, if it came out now, I'd watch it in addition to this movie to see the different. It would feel almost like a different movie, I think, just in general.
Yeah.
So.
Well, there's almost a more, there would be an even more sympathetic energy to it, because I feel like everyone I know or have ever met or has any IQ at all adores Steve Martin. Like you just have a natural adoration for that man. And so like watching that kind of guy in that, and he's visibly older, and he's not as ravishingly, timelessly handsome as George Clooney. Yeah. So it's just these different elements where it's like, where those little lines about like Anna Kendrick's character on the phone, like, no, I didn't even think about him. He's old, you know? And then like a cut to Steve Martin, like, like that would like, it would really drive the emotion a little further.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be more of a tone of like Steve Martin has given up versus then it's an active choice.
Yeah,
I feel like that might be a key difference in that. Like he is subsiding to this, giving into this, rather than being like, no, this is who I am and who I've always been. Maybe it's just my first thought.
Excuse me, may I go to the bathroom first?
Of course you may.
Thank you.
So my last favorite thing about this movie before I get to my ripping criticisms.
You have some criticism.
I have some, just for the sake of conversation, criticisms.
Okay, fair enough.
Some nitpicking criticisms.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to mention my favorite scene, my favorite sequence, which I love so much of the movie, but hands down, what makes this film work, we haven't talked about a lot of big picture themes or anything. The relationship between George Clooney and Vera Farmiga's characters, I think is just executed and built so perfectly. Like it's just the casual meet where they're being kind of quippy and fun, and then it turns into a little casual one night stand, but they kind of there's more there, and then they stay in touch and they stay on the phone. And I love the line where she says like, I'm not the kind of girl you have to worry about, and he says like, this feels like a trap, or this sounds like a trap. And then they're like texting or sexting, and it all comes to this beautiful conclusion, this beautiful climax in Wisconsin with his family. The whole buildup of them going to his elementary school together is beautiful, but then it really jumps off when he's consoling Danny McBride and trying to convince him to get over his cold feet. And then I just watched this today, and like I said, I've watched this 20 or 25 times before. And when Danny McBride goes, okay, yeah, and he walks out to go, and the song starts, the musical cue starts, this beautiful song. I looked it up. I'll look it up again. It's but by somebody named like Sad Brad something. It's like the musician's name.
We'll insert it here.
Put it up, Sad Brad. Just a perfect song. And when he walks out and he says, I'm such a fuck up. I'm such a fuck up. Like, and then the wedding montage is just, I started sobbing. Like I started sobbing today. And I've seen this, I don't know how many times.
Not before, today you were sobbing.
I hated this scene before, no.
You to try to help yourself.
It's just so beautiful. It's so natural and real, and then one of the facts you probably saw too, but I looked up and they just hired videographers to shoot that scene, like just regular wedding videographers, and they just ran through the wedding a few times. Like, it's just so, that's my favorite thing I've ever read about a movie like this. It's so cool, and I'm just so emotionally affected, and it makes it so much better when he discovers that she's married and it was all a farce. Like that, it's just a flawless orchestration of events. I love it so much.
I want you to try to help yourself.
It's a hug. The movie is hugging you. It's really amazing.
To sort of just one step further, I love the twist.
So I was in the neighborhood.
The moment where they don't have the conversation when he's there in front of them. He just kind of runs away in fear and in shock and, doesn't know what to do, but just bolts. I love the conversation that they have after it. I love that seemed very real. To continue with that moment of feeling very grounded and very honest. She comes in, starts accusing him. She's not like, she comes in, how could you do that? Like,
so you're gonna
you
fuck
should
this all
know.
up for me.
I like, you're like that just feels very real. But my favorite part is when at the end of that conversation, she says to him,
What do you want? Tell me what you want.
and I think there's like a version of this movie that if you wanted the happy ending and you wanted the romance, that he says, I want to be with you. And I feel like if he would have said that in that moment, that movie then changes to where she goes, I do too. Let's make this work. But he can't. And I feel he says nothing. And that is something that I emotionally really grab onto, because I've been in those sort of paralyzing moments in my life where you want to say something. You feel passionate about something of how you feel about someone else or a moment, but you don't have the courage. You don't have the courage to put yourself out there and to feel that vulnerable when you've been just punched in the mouth. So she says, "What you got to prove to me," and he can't overcome in that moment everything he's worked so hard to do. That moment for me is when I start to get really emotional and I go, "Fuck, man!" Like that's really.
It's really deep.
Yeah.
It's really deep.
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, there's so much beneath the surface where it's like, she's like, okay, like, if we're done fucking being soft about this, you know what I mean? Like, tell me, all right, what do you want?
Yeah, say it.
And then because you get it from her perspective too, where it's like, if he does say, I want you, it's like, well, that's going to require her to get a divorce. That's going to require her to like break up her family. Yeah. But it's like, and he's thinking about all that too. Yeah. And even though he probably does love her, there's like, you can't make that leap. And that's a really, that feeling of paralyzation is, like you said, something I can also relate to, where you're just like, I want, Yeah. It is really relatable. I love how cold she is to him in that conversation. Yeah. Where she's just like, no bullshit, man. Like, what are we doing here? Like I thought we were really clear.
Yeah, that's I love her character in that moment, because I think most people would write it or audiences would expect it for her to be sympathetic in that time. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry you had to see that. I didn't mean for you to find out this way. I wish I wanted to tell you. Like, most movies would go in that direction. And I love that she's like, fuck you for doing that. Like, how dare you?
Or she says, I'm a grown-up.
Yeah.
I'm a grown-up.
I'm a grown-up.
You're letting yourself run away with this fairy tale vision. And that's why the film's so great, because he takes us with him.
1,000%.
We're like on the ride with him. Like, you know what? Like, this is gonna be the one. This is a different thing. Like, I'm so, even as a cynical, like, most of my life non-believer in monogamy or relationships or anything myself, like, I'm on that ride too. Like, all right, George. you got it, buddy. This could be it. And I think that's one of the things, that is the thing I love most about this movie, just as a whole, is that, like, I really do think it's a beautiful love story. Yeah. And I think that people would probably think that's crazy. Because traditionally love stories have happy endings. But I love, and we'll get to this later in my top 10 list in a very big way. But I think love can be so beautiful and so profound and still not end right. Because, right, it doesn't a lot. And I feel like that doesn't cheapen what you had or what you experienced in those moments. Like, I think the very traditional concept of love and relationships is that, like, well, if they got a divorce, or well, if they broke up, it wasn't what we wasted our time, you know? And this is a much smaller microcosm of that because these people don't even get together officially. But like, I believe that they're in love with each other, and I believe in those moments and at the Young MC concert and at the wedding and all that stuff. Like, those are really real powerful moments of shared love. But you know, shit gets rough. Like, sorry, you know, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
I do want to just talk about the end of the film, like the very end of the film.
Tonight, most people will be welcomed home by jumping dogs and squealing kids. Their spouses will ask about their day, and tonight they'll sleep. The stars will wheel forth from their daytime hiding places. And one of those lights, slightly brighter than the rest, will be my wingtip passing over.
Can you tell me your interpretation of what happens to George Clooney at the end of the film? Like, what's the rest of his life look like?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I feel like he goes on, he does what Anna Kendrick said, like pick a spot on a map and fly. I think that's his last little monologue. You know, as families look up, they'll see the light on his wingtip, and I think he's just gonna travel. I think he got rid of his apartment. He's just gonna fly and fly and fly and fly, and kind of wing it. Wing it.
So you believe that he doesn't? And this is the thing. That's not. Don't placate this shitty humor.
Because an airplane has wings, Keith. You get it?
What? So you believe? I feel like the ending is contradicting itself. The voiceover contradicts every visual cue you get to that moment, at that moment. And that really bothers me, but I do like the mystery of it. Personally, I love sort of choose your own ending things that aren't so black and white. Personally, like, I am a fan of that, but this feels negative to a point where it contradicts itself a little bit, because the voiceover is exactly what you're saying. He says, when people are sleeping and you look up to the stars, that's going to see me flying overhead. I'm always out and about. But this emotional journey for 2 hours, the symbolism of him finally putting the handle down into his travel bag, to me signifies the end of something, the end, this closure of this chapter in his life. It feels like all the visual cues leading up to him are saying, I've changed. I'm now finding I'm gonna find a place to call home. I'm gonna give love a chance, like visually, and the journey he's on leads me down that path. But the voiceover says the complete opposite. So I don't really know. I'm left confused as to what is his path moving forward. Has he matured and learned a lesson and changed because of the experiences that we've just seen? Or is he hardened and bitter by the experiences that we've just seen, and he's like, fuck it, I'm gonna live in the air forever, and I'm gonna be Peter Pan?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think his arc is like, I think a really telling part of his arc is it when they're on the boat I think they're at the back of the boat at the tech party, where she's asking him about his backpack. She Googled him.
Yeah.
And he's talking about how, well, and now recently, I don't know about that anymore. I came up with that years ago, and now I'm thinking I got to take everything out of it and start over and figure out, what's the priorities in my life. Yeah. So he's like, I think that to me is his moment of like, he's at least considering different things, right? Because he's falling for this woman in a way he hasn't before, and he's thinking about tearing down all of this that he's built up about himself. So I think when that comes crashing down, and the realness of the revelation that she's not who she said she is, like, I think that's the end, is that like he is a changed man, but he's still Like, what does he have to stay there for? Like, he's gonna now continue this adventure with sort of this new perspective, open to new experiences that he was completely shut off to before. That's what I think.
I think that's bullshit. To me, the ending I think it has to be somewhat black and white. There has to be little gray, and you're saying it's all gray. He can't just have everything. He can't just have the life that he wanted and fly and feel free, but also feel like, oh, well, now I can also develop human relationships and feel vulnerable for people. Like, those two things don't work together. It's literally one or the other.
Well, I don't think he has everything he wanted. Because one, he wanted her, he didn't get her. And two, even at the end when Bateman says, you're going back up, he's like not that excited. So he might not even be that excited about the prospect of hopping around. He's not like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking travel around and get some strange tale all the time. Like, he's not like jazzed about it. He's just like, this is the way it is. I'm going up. This is my life. I'm gonna explore more. I feel like he did go through a full transformation, but the circumstances of his life are forcing him back in the air. So he's like, all right.
He didn't learn anything then. Nothing happened enough for him to enact change in his life, real tangible change, because he's just going to keep doing the same thing he's been doing the whole time, like that.
No, but with a new
commit
perspective,
to that if
where
that's
now
the
he's
case.
Open.
What?
I said with a new perspective now, though, because now he's open to meeting someone. He's open to a family, and
But his job hasn't changed. He's still going to be in the air this whole fucking time. Being open to a new perspective is as good as not changing in reality.
Oh, that's crazy talk.
No, you're wrong about that. It needs to.
I'm
This
not right.
ending needs to be more committal. Like, it's a non-committal, just like he is.
A
and
character
he needs to be
arc
more
is
committal.
more than someone losing their job.
No, he doesn't have to lose the job, but there's got to
change his job.
If he were to say, no, I'm going to stay the same job, but I'm going to be here this whole time. Like, okay, that's a change for him. He's now matured. Now I can see he's got a new perspective. He's taken action in his life. What action is he taking?
I think his change is very clear. I think his
attempt to change was clear. Change in the end of the film was not clear.
Well, your criticism is invalid because it went over your head, the emotional arc of the film. No. That's okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
All right, give me your criticism.
This isn't even a criticism either. It's just kind of a question that, like, it's a little strange to me that this movie, like, you get all the way to the end and everything is kind of resolved for the most part, and then it's like, hey, this woman killed herself, and it just seems like it's this really
do we not remember?
It's a really dark turn, and then it's made darker by the fact that he denies knowing anything.
You don't remember any woman that gave you any signals? Anything at all, Ryan?
No, nothing stands out.
Maybe I'm being too soft about it, but it's just kind of weird.
I like it because it just adds, it's the ultimate stakes. It's, I don't like suicide. I'm not rooting for that in any way.
Yeah.
But in terms of a point,
both of those things you just said are untrue.
Other people, myself, it's
Gotcha.
completely different.
Keith's a huge fan of suicide.
Yeah. My suicide, your suicide, don't do it. Me, that's fine. No, if there's going to be an emotional hinging point for Anna Kendrick, it's got to have stakes. It's got to have a real weight, real consequences. It's a callback to an emotional moment that he downplays in the beginning, and then his bluff gets called in a sense, and she can't handle it. Like,
hey, maybe they say something right away. Maybe George Clooney, there's one extra scene where he goes, hey, that woman, like, she probably doesn't mean it. They all say that because he says that anyways. But, like, let's phone it in. So they at least call it in. And then she does it anyways. Then you're okay. Then across the board, you're okay. Then there's motivation for Anna Kendrick to quit because she's the reason this woman killed herself. Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, blame the corporation, the cold corporation who doesn't take anything seriously. That they're like, oh, we get this all the time.
Pass the buck. Make it Jason Bateman's fault. He's an asshole character anyway,
Yeah.
Why not do that?
Yeah, I guess that'd be fixed, but I do think...
I'm good.
I do think there is something they're trying to prove a point there with his loyalty to her. I do think that's the point of that scene, of those two, of the two points of that scene. One, to give Anna Kendrick a reason to leave, and two, to show his connection to her, his devotion, his loyalty.
I think that happens anyway in his letter of recommendation. And if you wanted to pump up that letter of recommendation more to be like, this woman's fucking flawless, you could have done that. You could have accomplished that in that moment. Somebody give me a budget to make movies. Is
that how you get budgets? Just give me a minute.
They're watching this. All right.
Yeah.
So that's it, right? What else? Is there anything else you want to say? Any last closing thoughts?
No, I think for me, on my top 10 list, I know I don't have a lot of great films. This is probably one of, if not, I have to revisit my list a little bit, but they're like, in terms of
definitely the best
quality
film on your top 10. Which is why it's the only one we have in common.
It's rare films I enjoy line up with the quality of film, like actually being a good film. So this is the center part of my Venn diagram, which I think is great.
White Chicks is the next one up on Keith's. It's not, but it could have been. It was in the running.
Yes, I'm surprised I didn't have some weigh-ins. One of the weigh-ins.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Of films on my list. Yeah, well,
yeah, no.
Listen, I can't. I'm surprised you don't have just a flower blossoming for 12 hours, just slowly, and then it dies, and you're like, roll credits. That was fucking gorgeous, everyone.
Art. It's by Lars von Trier.
You don't understand art, Keith. No one wants to watch your films. And I can't wait to get to a couple of them to say, no one wants to watch these films. No one wants to watch some of your films.
I can't wait. I'm going to tear you apart.
But they don't enjoy it.
It's going to be good.
Can I do something that's extremely YouTube?
Yeah.
Let us know.
Keith's going to eviscerate liberals right now. No, sorry.
Let us know in the comments below what you agree with, or if you disagree with anything that we've said. I am always curious to hear other unintelligent perspectives. That's why I talk.
I don't care.
That's why I talk to Everett.
You can go ahead and leave those comments, but. I'm curious what people think about Anna Kendrick's hairline.
I'm glad we circled back to that. It's really important that we do that.
Hashtag.
Hairline. Anna Kendrick's hairline.